Every gardener knows that grass clippings are abundant, but very few stop to ask a deeper question. How long does it really take for them to turn into humus, the stable, dark, and nutrient-rich foundation of fertile soil? Grass breaks down quickly compared to other organic materials, but does that mean humus appears overnight? To find out, we track the full journey, stage by stage, and the results reveal not only a timeline but also how to manage grass clippings properly so they can work for the soil instead of against it. Why grass clippings are different. Grass clippings are not like dry leaves or woody debris. They are packed with nitrogen, moisture, and simple sugars. This makes them highly attractive to microbes, which begin feeding on them almost immediately. The same traits that make them break down quickly also create challenges. When piled too thickly, clippings mat together, exclude air, and produce anaerobic conditions that lead to foul smells instead of healthy compost. But when handled correctly, they are one of the fastest pathways to organic matter and eventually humus. The first stage: rapid breakdown. In the first few days after grass clippings are left on the soil or added to a compost pile, microbial activity surges. Bacteria consume the easily available nitrogen compounds and sugars, creating heat. This is the phase when clippings shrink noticeably, losing water and collapsing into a darker, slimy layer if not mixed with other materials. Worms generally avoid this stage because the environment is too hot and acidic. What looks like quick decomposition at this point is still very far from humus. It is the start of the biological process, not the end. Within 1 to 2 weeks, if conditions are right, fungi and additional bacteria move in to continue breaking down cellulose. At this stage, the clippings are no longer recognizable blades of grass, but rather dark, wet fragments with an earthy smell if aeration has been sufficient. This early composting phase is critical because if air is excluded, the material may sour instead of progressing toward humus. So, after about 1 month we reach what's called the early compost stage. By this point, grass clippings have usually transformed into a crumbly, partially decomposed material. The heat produced during the initial breakdown has cooled, and you'll notice worms starting to appear in greater numbers. Microbial populations also begin to stabilize, with actinomycetes, those special bacteria responsible for that classic earthy smell, becoming the most dominant. Now, most gardeners would actually consider this usable compost, but, well, it's not humus just yet. At this stage, the material still contains plenty of compounds that will continue to break down, releasing nutrients into the soil over a relatively short period. Humus, on the other hand, is stable organic matter that really resists further decomposition. Fast forward to 6 months and the transformation really starts to accelerate. The composted grass now takes on a darker color and a more uniform texture. Worm activity ramps up and their castings become a much larger portion of the material. The role of fungi also becomes more significant here, breaking down those tougher, more complex compounds like lignin, which is what gives grass blades their structure. This is actually the stage where the line between compost and humus starts to blur a bit. Some humic substances are forming, binding with soil minerals and becoming more stable against further microbial breakdown. But honestly, it's still a transitional phase. In our tracking, we noticed that clippings which had been mixed with carbon-rich materials like leaves or straw were actually farther along at the 6-month mark compared to clippings that were composted on their own. The mixture helped prevent compaction, balanced out the nitrogen content, and encouraged a more diverse microbial community, all factors that really sped up the transformation. After 1 year, humus emerges. So, after about 12 months, a significant portion of the original grass clippings has been cycled through microbial and worm digestion several times. The material is now, well, dark brown to almost black, crumbly, and it carries that unmistakable forest soil aroma. At this stage, true humus actually begins to appear. Humus isn't just decomposed matter, it's organic material that has been stabilized into these complex carbon structures. It's capable of binding with clay particles and, holding nutrients and water for decades. However, not all the material will have reached humus by this point. Depending on the conditions, about half to maybe 2/3 might still be in those intermediate stages of decomposition. The important takeaway here is that humus starts forming around the 1 year mark, but patience is definitely required for a complete transformation. After 2 years, stable humus formation really takes place. By the second year, the majority of the original grass clippings have fully transitioned into humus. There are no recognizable fragments left, and the material has completely integrated with the soil structure. Worm populations thrive in this kind of environment, continually cycling organic matter and enriching the humus with fresh castings. This is the stage where the soil sees lasting change. Clay soils become friable, sandy soils start retaining more moisture, and overall, the resilience of the system increases. Grass clippings may seem like a quick fix, but their full contribution to soil fertility is revealed only over this longer timeline. While nutrients are released quickly in the early months, the enduring benefits come later when humus is established. What we learned from tracking the process is pretty interesting. The key lesson is that while grass clippings disappear visibly within weeks, humus takes much longer to form. This gap between apparent decomposition and true soil building is where many gardeners misjudge the process. Leaving clippings on the lawn or adding them to compost certainly benefits soil in the short term, but for the long-term fertility that humus provides, a year or more is necessary. Our tracking also showed the importance of balance. Clippings used alone tended to compact and slow down in anaerobic conditions. When mixed with dry, carbon-rich matter, they decomposed more steadily and reached humus more effectively. Moisture was another crucial factor. Too dry and the process stalled, too wet and air was excluded. Consistent dampness produced the best results. So, for gardeners who want to speed up the journey from grass clippings to humus, the most effective approach is, honestly, to think in layers. Mixing clippings with shredded leaves, straw, or even just a little finished compost keeps the pile airy and biologically diverse. Turning is optional, but it really helps prevent compaction. Now for those practicing no-turn or, lazy composting, simply spreading clippings in thin layers or combining them with mulch materials works just as well, though the timeline stretches slightly longer. It is also worth noting that soil contact accelerates humus formation. Clippings incorporated into garden beds where worms and soil microbes have immediate access move toward humus faster than clippings composted in a pile. In either case, the principle is the same. What disappears quickly is not humus but the path toward it. When gardeners commit to this process, the results speak for themselves. After 2 years, the beds where clippings were consistently added developed a rich, dark soil with improved structure and water retention. Plants grown in this soil required less external fertilizer and showed fewer signs of stress during dry periods. This demonstrates why humus is often called the gold standard of soil health. It doesn't just feed plants once, it builds a lasting foundation that keeps feeding them for seasons to come. So, how long does it take for grass clippings to become humus? The answer, based on our tracking, is about 1 to 2 years. They may vanish to the eye within weeks, but humus requires patience, steady microbial work, and the cycling power of worms. Gardeners who expect instant results will see temporary fertility, but those who stay the course will gain soil that improves year after year. Grass clippings are not just waste from mowing, they are one of the simplest and most effective tools for building soil if we understand their true timeline. By managing them wisely, you can turn an abundant byproduct into a long-lasting soil treasure. If this guide gave you valuable insights, make sure to subscribe to Hydrohaven and share this with fellow gardeners who are serious about building fertile, living soil that lasts for generations.